Literally
Wow.
5 seconds ago, Jackie just got off the phone with President Trump. She called during the break.
Tell us.
Well, you guys heard too.
Yeah.
You start. Let me fix my hair.
So Jackie did what a reporter does, and what Jackie does. She dialed the President of the United States. He answered the phone, and Jackie peppered him with a series of incredible questions about Iran and the negotiations, and he broke some news. We didn't know who was going to the negotiating table, but he told you it would be Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. You asked him if the vice president were going. He said no, the vice president is not going because of security reasons. Jackie.
Yeah, the president said that Secret Service, essentially, I feel like the takeaway was they don't have enough time to sort of set up.
Because of the speed.
For the vice president to go and lead those negotiations again like he did last week. And we asked him sort of about the major sticking points here. And he claims, and he has been claiming this for the last few days now, that Iran has agreed to never have a nuclear weapon.
He said forever. The time limit would be forever.
Yeah, we asked him about that period of time, right? Because the U.S. during negotiations, is that already just last weekend?
Yeah, this weekend.
Had initially said that they made a 20-year offer. Iran countered with a 3-year offer, according to our reporting. That got some blowback from hardliners in the U.S. who say not even 20 years is sufficient. They want an indefinite suspension. The president now saying that that is what Iran is promising. But when we followed up for some of the specifics about the concessions that the U.S. is making in return, he said essentially he wasn't going to negotiate with us.
You also asked him about China. The fact that China is playing a part in this. And what did he say?
Yeah, the China issue has been something that I've really been interested in because as we were going through it last weekend, the one national security advisor that was also on the list in addition to Andy Baker was a China specialist, someone, a Southeast Asia specialist. And this week, that was something that the president talked about extensively during his interview with Maria Bartiromo, where he said that he had sent President Xi a letter asking him to stop supplying Iran with weapons. There were reports, although MS did not verify those, that China has been replenishing Iranians' military capabilities, and that has potentially allowed them to be able to stay in this fight longer than anybody anticipated. It was also reported that China was one of the players that actually kind of nudged Iran to get to the table. They get a third of their crude oil from the region through the Strait of Hormuz, so they have a vested interest in this. And he said that China is behaving very well.
Yeah. One of the things I found really interesting while we were listening to Jackie's call with the president of the United States just now, he wasn't as blustery as usual, even while he was talking to you and saying, you know, that China has been very well, that the Iranians are doing everything that the administration wants them to do, which obviously it doesn't bear out in the facts and the way they're actually operating. There felt like there was less bluster. It does not match the message that was in that tweet. Like, he did not talk about the bridges. He did not talk about the power plants in any way, shape, or form.
That was the one thing I regret not quickly asking him about, sort of the strategy behind his tweets, some of the threats, the bridges, as Jonathan brought up, the potential war crimes that he has been threatening, and what he thought of this Wall Street Journal reporting about sort of the strategy of appearing unstable and whether he feels like it's been effective and whether it's productive.
I mean, you mentioned that he didn't sound blustery. There weren't the threats during the phone call as he just put out on social media. But the thing that struck me was just the confidence he had in talking about this. He sounded more self-assured than I thought he would have, just given the behavior that we have seen in public, from social media posts to his calls all over the place to other members of the media. And part of me wonders, it's like, does he, I don't know, does he really believe that he has all the cards? And I don't know. Yeah, I think typically with Donald Trump, and Jackie, you know this as well, is like he has this like positive thinking thing, and he always has, right? Jonathan Swan did that amazing interview during the first term where he just like if you think positively about something, you can kind of manifest it into being. And that has been true of a lot of parts of his life. War is often very different in times of war and peace, but that seems to be where the president is.
Moments ago, we heard from President Trump on the phone that the American negotiators will be U.S. Special Envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Vice President J.D. Vance will not be traveling to participate in the talks. Let's bring in MS Now's White House reporter, Akayla Gardner. Hey, Akayla, how are you?
Good, how are you?
We are good. Okay, give us an update on what you're hearing and how you think this week is going to play out.
I mean, that news you just broke is so huge because the president had been suggesting for days that perhaps Vice President Vance would not reprise this role. And part of me thought maybe it's because that he would go to Pakistan himself, but now it sounds like he's not. He's sending his two main men, and Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, back to Pakistan to reprise their roles in the second round of peace talks. And it's just so unusual because Vice President Vance had just played such a high-profile role really even before the talks last weekend, because Iranian officials had been expressing this deep distrust in both Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, because of course those were the two men that they were speaking with before this war started, before that these were just nuclear talks. And of course the war started just 2 days before they were scheduled to meet again. So it is quite interesting that Vice President Vance is not going to be returning in that role. He has, of course, been a skeptic of foreign interventions. President Trump has openly said that he has been a little bit less enthusiastic about this conflict compared to other aid. So it's very surprising that he will not be returning, and it will just be Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and not President Trump.
Okay, I want to stay on this and have you help us square a circle here. We just heard the president literally around this table say that J.D. Vance will not be going because of security. Mike Walls, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, told John Karl over at ABC today that J.D. Vance will lead the American delegation to Islamabad for talks with Iran. I know you didn't. I assume you didn't talk to Mike Walls, but what it feels like is even in these high stakes moments, decisions are not being coordinated between folks that would usually have this information coordinated too.
It's a great question. I'm not sure exactly why there's this confusion. Of course, there were security concerns. There was security concerns last week as well. The vice president still went. I think it just brings a really complicated moment for Vance because he is somebody who will almost certainly run for president. And this is a moment that many people will look back on it about how he played a role in this conflict. And if we do see a deal this weekend without him, I think it'll be certainly glaring and something that he'll have to talk about later.